Hello and welcome to Conversations with Elizabeth Ellen Carter. It is my privilege and pleasure and delight and everything in between to be talking to the amazing USA Today bestselling author, Emily Royal.
And
she
good evening, fellow USA bestselling author Elizabeth. Hello.
Is as hopefully sort of anyone watching this knows, the anthology Upon A Midnight Dreary, our Halloween anthology through Dragonblade Publishing, hit 108 on the USA Today bestseller list, and we're all over the moon. And thank you very much. We couldn't do it without you, amazing readers and supporters. And while we're still on a high from that, we are absolutely thrilled to announce there's not one, but two Christmas anthologies coming out next week. And they are very cleverly titled Star of Wonder, Star of Light, which I think is a delightful match pair of stories. And Emily and I are we're both in Star of Wonder, aren't we?
I'm in Star of Light.
Oh, cool. All right. Okay. So we've got one of each. We've got one of each. So that is brilliant. And as we were saying just before we started recording, it's been an absolutely delightful roller coaster over the past few weeks that we've been putting so much energy and concentration into giving the best launch we possibly could for Upon A Midnight Dreary. That it's just like everything, isn't it? You turn around for 2 minutes and Christmas is here.
Yeah. It wasn't, yeah, kind of come down from the high from the Halloween anthology, and then it was like, oh right, okay, it's time to celebrate Christmas now. So yeah, it's been a roller coaster, but it's been fantastic.
The theme for the anthology is Christmas carols and Christmas songs, which I think is a great jumping off point. And just wondering, what was the inspiration for your story?
I actually spent ages Googling Christmas songs. I just typed in Christmas song and just looked at the list and just waited to get inspiration, and it didn't come. It me in the middle of the night, I think, the song. So mine is All I Want for Christmas Is You.
The reliable Mariah Carey.
Absolutely, yes. So I sort of thought the whole theme is about Christmas isn't about being beautiful and being wealthy and having presents. It's sort of thinking about what really matters in life, and kind of Christmas is a good time to sit back and reflect what you've got and appreciate what you've got rather than think about what you want. So yeah, that was the theme in the end, and that's kind of a lot of that is the theme in a lot of my books, because my heroes and heroines tend to be misfits. They tend to have massive flaws. They don't fit into society. So yeah, but then when it hit me, I thought, oh yeah, of course, that's the perfect song that to use.
Fantastic. Could you give us a little bit of an outline?
Oh, it's right. It's
the dreaded blurb.
It's linked to my Headstrong Hearts series, and book 3 is called Hidden Heart, and the hero of that, Devon Hart, has like a massive scar on his face, and he used to be like really materialistic, and then he got disfigured in a fight. So the only thing that he had going for him were his looks, which he used to charm and seduce lots of ladies to the kind of detriment of their married lives. So he's a bad boy. And he lost his looks, so that's kind of the only thing he felt he had going for him. So he kind of slinks into depression, and then he meets this beautiful lady who's beautiful. She's the darling of the ton. She's wealthy. She's got a title, but she's really discontented with that, because she thinks, yeah, I'm really beautiful, but I kind of wish I wasn't, because I'm fed up with being judged by my appearance. So they both judge each other by their appearances, and they obviously come together and have a happy ending. But the Christmas story, it's got most of the Hart family all gathering together in the Highlands for Christmas, but the story centres around Devon and his wife Atalanta, and I kind of like my characters not to have a completely happy ending, so because it doesn't all end up being a bed of roses. They still have problems and have to work through the problems. So poor Devon is kind of suffering a little bit with a little bit of depression, and his self-worth is a bit dented. And although he's got the scar and he's come to terms with it, now he's got children. His children are being teased as a result of it. Oh, your dad's the monster, your dad's the beast, kind of thing. So he's feeling a little bit low about that. So his wife is hoping that Christmas in the Highlands with the family will lift his spirits, but he's kind of seeing himself as a bit of a monster, and they want to parade him around at the children's party and be a kind of Regency version of Santa Claus and give out the presents. But he's like, you know, what children would want to see the monster on Christmas Eve, kind of thing. That's kind of, he's in a bit of a dark place, bless him.
Yeah.
And then he kind of feels really inadequate because his wife is like beautiful and she's charming and she's just perfect in every way. So he said, you know, what can I possibly give her for Christmas? What could she possibly want from me? I can't give her anything and she's got everything. So he's, poor lamb, he's in a bit of a dark place. So they had this Christmas in the Highlands, and it's sort of basically as a few events happen and a few kind of potential disasters happen, and eventually Devon, bless him, realizes that actually Christmas isn't about appearances. And his wife then says to him, well, yeah, all I want for Christmas is you, my darling. So he does end up quite
that is beautiful.
Bumps on the way. So I loved writing it, but it did start off quite dark because this poor man, he's got a bit of depression really. So it did start quite dark and weighty, but there are a few light elements as well. And I brought in some of the other characters from the story. So there's Dorothea and Griffin, who got together in the fourth book, The Prize Fighter's Heart. They're enjoying their happy ever after and getting up to all sorts of naughty shenanigans. And, she got married at 30, which is like really, really old in Regency times, and by golly is she making up for lost time.
Good for her. But it's interesting that you raise that. Look, Christmas can be a real struggle for people in real life. So you've really hit on something really quite important in sort of unpacking how one feels about Christmas and getting back to what the core of what Christmas actually is. And it's not the drive for the latest and greatest presents. It's not the pressure to perform for family. A really timely reminder to get back to basics.
I think you're right. There's an awful lot of people, aren't there, where Christmas is just a rotten time of year because it kind of makes them, and I think there's so much pressure to be happy and get drunk and go to parties that sometimes if you just don't want to do that, you then think, was there something wrong with me that I don't want to kind of go out to parties with millions of people? I just want to sit on my own. So
it's sort of, and also, I mean, I did go through a couple of years where following the passing of my mother, which happened in mid-October, that certainly for the first couple of Christmases, sort of, given that she was the sort of the linchpin of the family, well, Christmas just doesn't feel the same until you've reached that point where you can build new relationships and renewed relationships and create new traditions again. Sort of there.
Absolutely, that empty place at the head of the Christmas table can, there's a big gap there sometimes that just can't be filled.
One thing that my aunt and uncle have done, which is a lovely tradition, is each Christmas, sort of actually on Boxing Day, sort of all the cousins get together, and before distributing the presents, sort of 3 ornaments are placed on the tree, and they're sort of photo ornaments. One of my grandfather, one of my grandmother, so my aunt's parents, and my mother, my aunt's sister, just as a specific way of acknowledging them and keeping them part of the family, and that's such a beautiful idea. That was that's really touching every year.
But I've never sort of thought about getting them, but it is a lovely dance because then they're kind of with you, aren't they, at Christmas? I mean, they're with you anyway in spirit, but actually to see them on the tree is then they're always going to be part of the celebrations.
Yeah, that's it, and sort of gives you the opportunity to recall the Christmas in the past, and since then there's sort of a younger generation grown up who certainly haven't got to know my grandfather, but sort of being able to share, well, this is what we would do, and this is what your great grandfather would have said, and so yeah, that just creating new memories for Christmas.
Yeah. Yeah, I do remember my grandfather, because his birthday was actually Christmas Eve, and we'd always pick him up from the railway station at Christmas Eve, and he'd come and spend Christmas with us. And I was like mad about board games, and I was always badgering people to play board games with me, and nobody would. It was like just that, that annoying kid that keeps badgering us to play games. But my granddad, bless him, he would always sit down and we'd play board games for hours and hours and hours and hours together. And that's kind of my fondest memory of him, is that, poor man, he'd be sitting there with his with his glass of whiskey or something, watching the TV, and I'd come in going, Granddad, can you play Mastermind? And then 3 hours later we were still playing again, Granddad, again. But yeah, bless him, he put up with it, which was
oh
great.
No, I bet you he loved every minute of it. Mastermind is such a great game. You've actually inspired me to get ours out of the cupboard and play. Haven't played that in years.
It's really simple, but it's really difficult. The concept is simple, but it's quite a challenging game. Actually, my other granddad used to play an awful lot of chess, so I'd badger him to play chess with me as well. So yeah, both my granddads were great for board games at Christmas time.
That for us, after Christmas lunch, and yeah, no, maybe probably about 2 o'clock after the the worst of the sun is hit. We'd oh yeah and we'd go for a walk, and quite frequently, yeah, Christmas was at my mother's place, and it's about about a kilometre back from a river. So we'd basically walk off lunch, go down to the river and take a walk around the park. For the younger ones, there was play equipment there, so yeah, the adults could just sort of sit and chat in the shade while the kids played with something other than their toys for a little while. Yeah, and then head back, and dinner was always sort of what was left over after lunch.
Fantastic. Now we have our Christmas dinner quite late, so we tend to have it more as an evening meal, I think, rather than lunch. And it kind of gets later and later and later, because I normally open a bottle of Cava or something, and I'm kind of halfway through the bottle by the time the turkey goes in, and then everything just takes a bit longer then by the time I get to it. So yeah, it's always
so it's grazing at our place usually.
And do you have like the full turkey with all the trimmings, the hot roast meal in the middle of summer on Christmas Day?
The friends that we spend Christmas Day with, definitely with the ham. So they do a honey and black sugar glaze over that with with roast potatoes. Is it generally chicken? No. There is turkey, but it's turkey breast rather than the full turkey. And then roast potatoes. I think that's it for the root veggies, and then salads.
Okay, yeah, and I go the whole hog with we get a whole turkey, but our children love the legs and the wings, so they're like little cave girls, just like gnawing on great jones, and they kind of spit this bone out at the end. It's like dipping something into a piranha infested lake, and this sort of clean bone lands on the plate. Think, okay. So but then we then have leftovers for a week afterwards, I think. So what's your Christmas story? What's your theme or your Christmas song?
It's actually a Scottish Christmas carol, the Christ Child's Lullaby. And the reason I wanted to pick that particularly is the hero is a supporting character in a full-length title which will be coming out next year. And the hero, Roddy McLean, this is past the main hero and heroine's happily ever after. He's feeling a little bit like a third wheel. The theme of the full-length title, Deceiving the Duke, is connections with fathers, particularly. The heroine has found that her father has feet of clay that she didn't know about at the beginning, and for the hero, that his father is not the demon that he thought, that they are flawed human beings, and in that our hero and heroine have been able to embrace their destiny. So on the back of that, Roddy is thinking more about his family, because he's come from the one of the islands in the Hebrides, and he's sort of embraced sort of life in the lowlands. So he's on his way back, but on his way back he encounters a young woman and a baby, and there are bad people looking for the baby, because he is the actual grandson of a laird, and the poor child's parents, the father, the son of the laird, is secretly engaged to this girl, but in the days before the banns were due to be read, he's killed in a horse riding accident. But she's already pregnant. She gives birth to the child, but sadly dies in childbirth. So her sister takes care of the raising of the of the baby, and the cousin of the dead young man, who is in line to take the title, learns about the boy and is going to kill him. So I've taken the heart of the death of the innocents by Herod and the flight into Egypt by Mary, Joseph, and Jesus as the inspiration for this particular one, and exploring what becoming an adoptive father, a stepfather in essence, means for a man who's only had himself to take care of, and now he's starts by saying, well, I can get you and the young baby to safety, but during the journey back down to the lowlands, they begin to fall in love, and he falls in love with the child as if it was his own.
Oh, that
and so it's, and taking a line from the carol, it's a sweet tale of blessings.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. Can't wait to read that.
So yeah, so that was really, really fun, and I'll actually do something in the Readers magazine. December's Love's Great Adventure will be dedicated to all things Christmassy, and actually, funnily enough, I won't be writing it. I'll get my husband to write it. I'll get him to write a feature on the history
as well.
He does. He's in fact, he taught me everything I know. I was a young cadet journalist at the local paper, and he was already a more experienced reporter, and he did the entertainment pages, sort of TV, music. And
Yeah.
one of my first tasks as a brand new cadet is to work with him on setting out the TV timetable for the paper.
Oh, okay. You see, that's a romance novel in the making there. Got to get that in somewhere.
Love in the broadsheets.
Fantastic title. Did you find it easy to come up with the theme and the carol for your Christmas story?
Knowing who I wanted to be the hero, that was easy. Finding the carol wasn't, because I wanted something distinctly Scottish, but I didn't want it to be too late, sort of late 19th century into the early 20th century for the choice. Yeah. So I did discover something really interesting about the carol. It was taken from a folk tune, but the priest who wrote the carol was himself dispossessed by the clearances, which happens to be the theme of this particular story. And he ended up emigrating to Australia. He ended up becoming taking up a position in Victoria outside Ballarat. I think it's outside Ballarat. And if I have that right, Ballarat is in the mid to late 19th century, a gold mining town. And so in doing a little bit of research, there's an Australian connection as well. So I thought that was pretty neat.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I feel a bit guilty because I wanted to go for a traditional carol, and particularly a traditional Scottish one, and I just couldn't find one that fit with the themes, and I couldn't get Mariah Carey out of my head. So
she has that habit. Actually, there's an episode of the X-Files which I end up playing every year called The Ghosts Who Stole Christmas. And there's a very a line very early in when Scully has been torn away from Christmas shopping because Mulder wants to go ghost hunting, and she mutters, "If I hear Silent Night one more time, I was going to take hostages." So
I have to check that. I used to love the X-Files, and I haven't seen it for ages. Absolutely, it's bound to be on YouTube somewhere, isn't it? I think.
I was such a big fan back in the day. I have the entire 9 seasons on DVD.
Not many. Oh my goodness.
I don't count the 2 revival seasons because I caught a little bit of that and thought it was dreadful. So
yeah,
they're dead to me.
Right, okay. I will ignore those then.
Not canon. I don't care if it's the same producer and cast. You don't ruin characters like that, but I think that's a topic for another day, about character development and where things fail and where things don't. So there's a YouTuber, a Scottish author by the name of Will Jordan, who goes by the name The Critical Drinker. And he delivers his film reviews as if he's a drunken, well, he is a Scot, but as if he's drunk and belligerent, and he is hilarious. But one thing I really appreciate about The Critical Drinker is he loves storytelling. He is very passionate about great characterizations, and sort of watch his videos and go, yeah, he's really spot on. And sort of, it does make you reflect when you're writing your own stories. It's sort of, okay, am I doing my characters justice? And am I getting them to do things because it's convenient, but not necessarily true to their nature? So being mindful of that as
I always
as
with
you
that
go.
with plots, because you sort of think, I've got to get from this bit in the plot to that bit in the plot. How do I do that? Do I get the character to do something that's completely out of character and do it in a couple of sentences, or do I just think it through and work out the way? And it's yeah, it can be difficult. Do you find when you watch TV shows, or even kind of going back to the old episodes of the X-Files, do you find you're watching it now with a more kind of critical author's eye in terms of characterization and character development, and sometimes you forget to just sit back and enjoy the story?
It was an occupational hazard, because I used to review film and television when I was a newspaper journalist. But again, it's sort of, that is just so informed the way I write. Is I've changed. It's changed a little bit over the years, but when I sit down and think about a scene, I think of the long shot. I think of the establishing shot. Sometimes with the description of the environment, I find myself with a crane camera, starting either from sort of focusing on something small to broadening out, or doing the same thing, maybe a description of a big expansive landscape and then focusing on a rider on a horse, for instance.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm very visual in the way I think about the writing, because and it's funny, I've sort of moved a little way away from that, but my characters do what's known in the industry as table reads. So I'm focusing a lot about dialogue in some of the really early drafting stages. And in the film industry, you've got, before you do the actual rehearsal on the stage or on the set, they sit down, and all of the cast are there, and it's usually hilarious, and they'll listen in. So how they deliver their lines and the evolution of some of their characterization may evolve from the table read. So that's essentially how I'm approaching my writing at the moment. So which is leading to some really hilarious dialogue too. It's great fun. I love it when characters have a sense of humor.
Yeah, I really love doing dialogue. I think I'm a little bit like you, because I tend to picture the scene first before I write it. So I'll kind of run it through in my head, often last thing at night when I get, when you go to sleep last thing at night, that kind of delicious bit right at the end when you're about to drift off and you start imagining all these kind of daydreaming type things. I tend to picture that, and often I'll have dialogue running around in my head. I just actually submitted a pitch for a new series, and I've really struggled with putting the books in order, and they're already all interconnected, and I just know that once I get to about the third book in the series, there's going to be another 10 that are coming in from different angles that I never would have thought of. So we should see what
that's fun. That is so much fun when that happens. It's sort of, it's this mini universe that's just come to life, and I think if it takes you by surprise and delight, that there's a very good chance the reader will be drawn the same way to it.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, the thing I've struggled with is I wanted to sort of sort out the order in which the books come, so kind of put one first, which really kind of sets the series off, and then sort of put them in a different order, maybe pitch kind of the best four first and the next ones later on. But because I've been working on them all week, I'm really passionate about them all. So it's like saying which is your favorite book to put forward first. It's like saying which of my children is my favorite. I don't have any. And it's great to be so passionate about them all, but it now means that I haven't got a clue which order to.
Maybe you should treat them like baton runners.
Ah, now that's a good idea.
So it's they're all equally important, but their importance in the overall narrative may decide the order.
Now that is a really good idea. I'm just thinking of Usain Bolt now being book number 4. I love Usain Bolt. I think he's so cool. That's a really good way of putting it. Is kind of how they all fit in. And I have sort of thought about, because there's some books where you've got, I want to introduce some antagonists in the earlier books that then will get their opportunity to redeem themselves in the later books once the readers have thought, oh, that woman's really horrible, isn't she? But actually I want to show then in book number 7 why she's so horrible. And some of the kind of friends of the dashing hero in one of the books are then going to be heroes getting their books later on. So there's a little bit of a narrative running through it. But I quite like the idea of the relay race, because then it's not picking which one is your favourite, but it's saying each one of those fulfills a certain purpose in the overall narrative. So I'll put that down as a little writing tip, actually, because I've never thought of that before. But it is, I do like planning stuff, so it has been really fun planning out a whole series. And I tend to dress up my world, and I have like big spider maps showing all the characters. So I'll have kind of hero and heroine, and then all the interconnected people with lines and diagrams kind of connecting them all to each other, saying what the relationships are. So it ends up being really complicated, but I love doing that. I absolutely love building up worlds and character profiles and things. So that's been good fun. And then when you write the character's book, you then want to go back to them again. So it's nice to bring them back into cameos in later books. And like this, I mean, this Christmas story, it was just so wonderful to meet my characters again, because I love these characters. It's like, well, they've had their stories, I can't write their books again, but I probably will eventually write books with their children. But it's just lovely to have them all coming together. And the thing I love about a Christmas story is and I love writing the really complicated plots. We've got plots and subplots, and it goes into a kind of massive 80,000 word story. But a little Christmas novella, you can't do anything complicated. It's just a nice little light nibble, showing most of them having a happy time. And I do love that aspect of it as well. It's just a bit different. So it's been fun. It's been a really good fun few weeks.
I found that with one I did a couple of years ago for Christmas, which I called Father's Day, and it connects the Heart of the Corsair series to the King's Rogues, because Catherine had asked me to write a few more of the Kit Hardacre ones, and it's sort of I'd been so terribly clever, and book 3 in the story focused on a couple who got married in book 1, so it was actually a prequel to the other 2. And it ends with a scene from the first book told from another character's perspective, so it was a big loop. So I thought, well, I could I had a hankering to do Cornish smugglers, so I created Kit Hardacre's father Adam, who ended up being a very young father, but he, the story goes that the squire's daughter, he and the squire's daughter have this summer affair. She learns that she's pregnant. Father sort of sends Adam to the Navy, basically has him shanghaied. She's sent to London to have the baby, but she dies in childbirth. And it's not until 30 years later that Adam discovers, or 20 years later, that Adam discovers that he is a father. But by this stage, he thinks his young son was lost at sea. So this Christmas story came about where Kit and his wife have returned to London to find out something about his mother, at least. He has no expectations of finding his father. He has it in his head that his father did a runner.
Yeah.
But in the King's Rogue series, a lovely villainous character, Lady Abigail, who I redeemed in her story much earlier on, she's a bit of a bully, and she likes interfering in people's lives. So she has done some research and believes that Adam Hardacre's son may not be dead, so manages to trace him to where he lives in Naples, and then engineers a trading run which brings him to England. So she has grand plans to reunite father and son, but neither of them know it yet. And they do, and sort of it doesn't immediately go well, because these two men are strangers to one another, and it's various events that unfold in this little short story that bring them together.
So wow. So definitely a theme with father-son relationships and unmarried mothers dying in childbirth, isn't there? Which is, I suppose, it's good for lots of angst, isn't it? It's quite tragic, but it's good for angst.
And historically accurate. I have very sad sort of, the mother and child mortality rate up until the beginning of the 20th century was really quite dire, and that is one of the things I think we play with in historical romance. I mean, we love sex, and characters love sex, and people love sex, and it's great, but the potential consequences of that in the reality of the danger, some very serious dangers of dying in childbirth, put a regulator on a lot of sexual activity.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we worry not about such things, because they're fictional characters.
At least you do know with a good romance novel. I mean, I tend to torture my poor characters. I really put them through the mill, but you do know that they have their happy ever after. Okay, they might still have to work at it for a few years beyond that, but that's one thing I love about a romance novel. You kind of know whatever happens, however badly someone behaves, there is going to be some form of redemption and some form of happy ever after, and some form of kind of karma as well. If you've got an antagonist, they will get their comeuppance at some point, or they might get some form of redemption, but they have to kind of go through fire to get to that redemption. I do love that whole thing about the way it all balances. Doesn't necessarily tie up in a neat bow, but you do tend to get closure on a lot of these threads, and I mean, that's the one thing I really love about romance novels. And
at its heart, it's life affirming, which I really love. It is a cause for optimism, and that is something which isn't fantasy, because in times in life we can go through really bad stuff, but if we just remember it's a season of that, and it will end. And what was it? I saw a meme on Facebook years ago saying, no matter what tough times you're going through, your ability to get through it so far has been 100 out of 100. You're still here, so keep going, and being able to enact that for readers within a self-contained story, I think really gives hope, as well as entertainment, obviously, but just something that draws the reader in, perhaps gets them to reflect on what might be for them. It's great. I love romance for that reason.
Yeah, me too. I love it when you have characters who they might appear something, but actually it turns out there's something completely different. So they might appear good, but actually it turns out they've got some bad traits, or they might appear bad, but it turns out they've got some good traits. And it's just the fact that you can really dig into somebody's individual character and what they're thinking, and what drives them, what's caused them to be the way they are, and even if they might come across as being antagonistic or something, that there's often a reason for that. And I love exploring that in romantic novels, where you've got kind of anti-heroes and anti-heroines as well. It's it's great. It's exhausting, but it's great fun to do.
Well, thank you very much for our conversation today. It's always a delight to chat with you.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's been such fun.
It's always great fun. Everyone, Star of Wonder, Star of Light, out this Thursday, the 11th of November, 99 cents each for Dragonblade's very, very best authors. You will absolutely love this Christmas. And also stay tuned. In a couple of weeks' time, I'll do a cover reveal for the December edition of Love's Great Adventure,
Ooh,
which will
yeah,
also
don't miss
outline, thank you, will outline many of the stories you'll find in both anthologies, with lots of Christmas fare and lots of Christmas fun in there as well. Thank you very much. If you like this conversation, like, share, subscribe. It will really help me build the channel and do more interviews like this. So thank you very much, everyone.